Hey, I'm James, and welcome to Alternate Sides, a podcast about movies, parking, and a 25-year friendship. It's the end of our second season, and this week we're feeling our way into Martin Brest's drama, Scent of a Woman, starring Al Pacino and Chris O'Donnell. We get into an extended debate about the ethical dilemma at the heart of the story, as well as the movie's striking parallels to Alexander Payne's recent film, The Holdovers. Sam calls me a snitch and a rat. Do you agree? Have a listen and let us know what you think. Here we go. Whoa!
Oh, I'm just getting warmed up.
I want to get right into it. I just want to get right into it. This movie is silly. This is a silly movie.
I disagree. Good. Let's go. Let's go. It is. It's a bit much.
Scent of a Woman. I'm really surprised that you, of all people, this seems like exactly the kind of movie that you would be so groany about. There must be something about when you saw it or your nostalgia for Pacino.
Fucking love Pacino.
Well, let me say something first, which is this is the last of the second decade. This is the end of season 2.
1992. We made it.
20 years of movies that I have finally seen.
Yeah, you feel better about yourself?
I do. It's been edifying.
That's good.
Yeah. 1992's Scent of a Woman, and I'm going to issue one of my criticisms of this movie in the recap. And I'll just start by saying this. This movie feels to me like two perfectly good movies sandwiched into one movie.
Oh.
Movie number one is an intergenerational road movie, which we've seen before. There are good versions and bad versions, in which the young, doe-eyed, naive person goes on a road trip with the cantankerous, crusty, world-weary older person, and along the way, they both learn valuable life lessons. So in this case, it's the young Chris O'Donnell who goes to like the most central casting boys prep school you could possibly imagine, which is sort of interesting because
sort of like where you went, right?
Well, the thing is, it's not only like where I went, but it's 1991 when they shot it, which is when I was a senior. So
Exactly.
It really was like going back in time to a certain extent. I'll leave it to you to think about which character I might have been.
You were a Baird man, just like Charlie.
In this case, what makes it interesting is that it's Chris O'Donnell who's the young high school student and
who's on scholarship. He's doesn't really belong in Baird.
He doesn't really belong there, and he takes a job over the Thanksgiving break to care for this
a retired war veteran who is now blind. Yeah.
Played by Al Pacino, who incidentally in this movie, Al Pacino, the actor, is younger than I am right now.
Is that true?
Yeah. Is that crazy or what? He seems like he's in his late 50s or early 60s in this movie.
Yeah, he seemed grizzled.
Yeah. Do I seem grizzled?
No, you're not a retired lieutenant colonel.
I'm fresh as a daisy.
Yeah, you've never done a day's work, and you're the fucking Baird man. You're one of those
man.
twats.
You should
who
feel
ends up
how soft and buttery the skin on my hands is.
Exactly.
No calluses here.
No.
So Pacino lives in this sort of like outhouse granny flat apartment with his niece and her husband, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go away for Thanksgiving, and he has a secret plan to take the young Chris O'Donnell to New York for a blowout weekend, so to speak, because I say blowout because at the end of the weekend, he's planning to kill himself.
Blow his brains out.
He's going to splurge. They're going to stay at the Waldorf Astoria. They're going to eat a nice meal. He's going to bed a beautiful woman, and then he's going to kill himself. Okay, so that's movie number one. Movie number two is also kind of a classic, which is set at a Tony prep school where there are rules, and it's a movie about duty and about truthfulness and about the messiness of real life when it comes up against these codes, insider and outsider. And in that movie, the young Chris O'Donnell, who is on scholarship and doesn't quite belong to this place, is a key witness in really what doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Like the whole thing is a little bit overblown to have at the end the entire school in this like courtroom setting or whatever with the disciplinary committee behind. But so the Board of Trustees has presented to the asshole headmaster a Jaguar car. And the headmaster is smug about this, and these boys rig up this thing so that the headmaster is humiliated in front of the school, and this huge balloon of white paint ends up all over the car and all over him.
They humiliate him. He won't stand for that.
He is completely humiliated. He will not stand for it. He will brook no dissent on this. And so then it quickly emerges that Chris O'Donnell and the young Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Philip S. Hoffman,
who's very good in this.
It's like one of his first roles.
As a sort of sniveling, feckless, like
He's
kind
amazing.
Yeah, so we'll get into that. They're the only witnesses. And so the headmaster puts the boots to him, the Chris O'Donnell character, and sort of bribes/blackmails him with saying he can get him into Harvard, and gives him this deadline. So that's movie number 2. And that's a perfectly good feature movie you could make. It's a little bit slight in some ways. You'd have to have some B story in there, probably about the local girls' school, and has some dance or whatever and intrigue.
Wow, he's really thought about it.
I'm making this up as I go, but it's only coincidental because my sisters went to the all-girls school down the road.
It just comes so easily. Yeah.
Hijinks ensued. So...
Right.
So to me, these are two perfectly good movies. There are many more bad versions of those movies than there are good ones. But sandwiching together on top of each other, to me, seems like too much. And the movie is over 2.5 hours long, which is too long. And I'll just wrap up by saying, maybe somewhat provocatively, like, I think the case could be made quite easily that Chris O'Donnell should have told the truth. It seems to me that actually they went the wrong way on this. Like, why not rat out the shitty kids at the school full of assholes?
Wow.
Well, isn't I thought you might. I thought you might wow at that.
Snitches get stitches. That's why.
Well, we can talk about whether it's snitching or not. It's about truthfulness. Truthfulness and principles.
Is that how you see it?
That's how I see it.
That's how a Baird man sees it. Okay.
That's how I see it. So anyway, I invite you to take up any of these points that you like.
I hear you that there are two big sort of arcing storylines. I'll start here. The movie is too much, right? The performances are a bit too much. The movie is a bit too much. The biggest crime of the movie is the soundtrack.
Oh.
I think it would be an amazing film school exercise to take this movie and rip the soundtrack off and get film composers to score a different soundtrack. And you could improve this movie 30% by getting rid of Thomas Newman's absolutely pants score, which is placed all over.
I've never heard you be so passionate about music.
It's a disgrace. The score to this movie is an absolute disgrace, and it's overused. I think you could immediately temper the over-the-top saccharine, swelling nonsense of the movie with the music. That's number one.
Swelling nonsense. That's my stock in trade.
Yeah. That's
the funny thing is, the first notes of the score, I thought, this sounds a lot like Miller's Crossing. That has a very similar opening to the score.
Yeah.
But then within 30 seconds, I thought, this is actually pretty good. Not necessarily, as you say, using the right place, but musically, like, this is interesting. And then Thomas Newman's name came up, and I was like, Tom, of course, because Thomas Newman is one of the greats. But I agree that it's too much.
I don't mind it over the opening credits when it introduces the school, because it kind of is appropriate to that. But then every single scene in between Al Pacino and Chris O'Donnell, whether it's a dinner scene, whether it's a fight scene, whether it's just a conversation in the back of a cab, is just papered with this ridiculous string fucking score. Anyway, I've said my thing about that. That, I think, is the biggest cardinal sin of the movie is the score. I think that the thing of the two movies that you say is actually what makes it a bit better than it could be, because the Chris O'Donnell what should you do dilemma, the moral sort of dilemma at the heart of it, should I, shouldn't I?
Which I seem to have come down on the wrong side.
Which you're obviously just a Stasi informer. So like now we know that. Okay, great. We have no no question where you'd be in Germany.
I'd be in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee.
Yeah. I'm just telling the truth, guys. They were communists. I don't. It's just the truth. Shouldn't I tell the truth? Oh my God, unbelievable. You think you know a person? No.
Well, we will get into that because I need to defend myself on that. But go ahead.
Good luck.
Go ahead.
But I think that what that moral conundrum at the heart of the Chris O'Donnell character does for the movie is it allows Al Pacino it allows them not to really have to go deep into backstory and exposition and all this other nonsense that in the movie where it was just the crusty old man in your first movie, the road movie, you would inevitably then have to do a lot more work to A, sympathize with Al Pacino, and B, explain and have him have an arc. He gets to have his arc through this young boy who is basically...
I'm not saying take the movie and cut out all the school stuff and you've got a good movie. It would obviously be a totally different rewritten thing. I'm just saying that premise.
I think that that's not enough. And I think that the two, I agree that you could cut half an hour out of this movie. You could probably cut 10 minutes out of the last scene, which is too long. Everything's done too much. I totally agree. And you could make it a 2 hour 10 movie without any real without losing too much. But I think that the Colonel Slade's understanding of the world and what's going to happen to Chris O'Donnell, and Chris O'Donnell slowly realizing the truth about the world through him, through this asshole, it is what the movie is about. It's true that I saw this movie probably when it came out, and even then we all knew it was too much. But I would always much rather have too much than not going for it. Al Pacino is fucking going for it, and I think I would always rather see someone go for it than not. And the movie is a series of set pieces. It's the blind man drives the Ferrari. It's the blind man does the tango. It's the blind man tries to commit suicide. It's the blind man makes the impassioned speech. It's a series.
It's a sort of that's the road movie, right? I see.
It's not so much about the journey, though, in the way that a road movie maps out it's sort of, especially because they're just going to go and come back. Although I guess Slade was not planning on coming back.
His was a one-way ticket. Maybe this is a good moment for me to pitch my McRib idea, which is a road movie idea.
Please, no. Please, let's put this one to bed once and for all.
Very briefly. So we all know that the McRib appears only occasionally at McDonald's.
He's going for it, guys. He's doing it.
And you would think that that's tied to some holiday or whatever, but apparently it's only when like pork belly futures dip below a certain point. That's when McDonald's does the McRib, because that's the only time it's profitable. And it doesn't go into every restaurant in every city. There might be one in Phoenix, one in Chicago, one in Santa Fe, one in Boston, or scattered around those. It's not like it's everywhere. Father and son estranged. I'm glad
that you've done the research.
Yeah. Divorced family. I always do my homework. Divorced family, estranged father and son. Son is about to go to college. It's the summertime. It's their last, and the McRib is around. And the McRib somehow figures in their past, in this kid's earlier childhood. And so they go on a road trip to visit every McDonald's that's serving McRib over the next 2 weeks before it closes. And along the way, they learn valuable lessons and come together.
It writes itself, really. Yeah.
It's called Boneless.
Terrible. So terrible.
Okay. So anyway, it's this Scent of a Woman. And also, so when I told Molly this is the movie we picked, she said, I bet that's really sexist. And I was like, why would you say that right off the bat? I guess maybe you've seen the movie or whatever. And then I was like, it is called Scent of a Woman, and it's about these two dudes going on this trip. Chris
O'Donnell, Charlie is not a dude under any.
It's about it is of its time. Let's put it that way in terms of its depiction of women and of
sure,
relationships.
Definitely.
I mean, the tango scene, for example, how are we to read the tango scene? That's just terrible. I understand it's a scene where, listen to you, I can't believe how soft you're being.
Because I tell you what it is. That is a made for Hollywood sequence.
Right, but why is that okay? Yeah, I know, but you normally detest made for Hollywood sequences.
Well, no, that's not true. What I hate is the thing that pretends to be, like I was telling you the other day, this movie is almost identical to The Holdovers. And I hate The Holdovers. And I'll accept this movie because The Holdovers to me is pretending to be an art house, is like a really good like a good movie. This is not pretending to be that. This is basically saying, here you go, guys, eat your popcorn, have fun, watch this guy fucking chew the scenery. And that's what we're supposed to do. It's like slipping into a warm bath. It's just something very, very,
very
comfortable.
Yeah.
And like, and yes, over the top and silly in that Hollywood way. I hate it when a movie, like, this is why I don't like Alexander Payne's movies generally, is that he's basically doing the same movie but pretending.
The same movie in the sense that young boy, prep school boy on a holiday break is paired with cantankerous older man and they both learn lessons.
Exactly.
Right.
And Paul Giamatti is great. He's terrific. The acting is great. It's not about the acting. It's that movie's tone. It's just like pretending to me that it's doing whatever. Maybe I'm unnecessarily harsh on that.
That's so interesting because I watched the Holdovers at your behest. Yeah. So I saw Ascent of a Woman 2 nights ago and I watched the Holdovers last night. And it really is interesting to see them back to back because they both depict these kind of like upscale prep schools or whatever. Yeah. I have to say that I found the Holdovers was sort of a warm bath to me. That tone and that like period and those characters, like that Giamatti is fantastic in that. And
yeah, he's always
but great. That character, who says presently instead of in a second, or who's like quoting Latin, or who's just like uptight, maybe because I see myself, a man who speaks in an obsolete vernacular. And that teacher, like I know that teacher so well, and that I just felt very at home in that movie in a way. It felt more real to me in a way. Well, that
movie's 30 years. It's 30 years later, right? So it's definitely has the benefit of being, even though it's a period piece and set in the 70s, it has the benefit of using all the tropes that were current. It would never use the score, for instance, that Scent of a Woman uses. It has like sort of humor and sort of a light touch that is of our time, right?
But it's very melancholic, I think, that movie. Even from the first shot, it's sort of winter and the snow and it's quiet and this like Cat Stevens or whatever it is that's on the score. And it's
did you ever see Wonder Boys?
Yeah, I really liked Wonder Boys.
That movie, I think, is better than both these. I think Wonder Boys actually is a really, really good movie with, again, the same kind of thing of prep school and teachers and this and that. But it's a bit, hang on, the traffic warden's coming to have a word with me. He might make me move.
Oh, wow.
Hey, they're coming? I go over there? I'm going to move over. I might lose the microphone. He's giving tickets out, left, right, and center.
So he's moving the car just across the street,
or what? Moving the car just across. Don't crash. I'm going right here.
Look at this. So we just saved you $68.
That's it. This is the whole purpose of this shebang. Here, I'm going to creep up here so I'm not in the way. And hopefully once the street sweeper comes through, I will duck right back.
It would be amazing if the street sweeper still just went right down the middle without.
Well, he still will because there's cars.
He won't weave in and out.
Well, yeah, he will.
That's too
He
much
will.
work.
But there's like four. No, the whole front half of the block is filled.
All right, keep an eye out for him.
Now the bikes are annoyed. Yeah, either way, you're going to annoy someone. The bikes are now angry at me. That guy was a real asshole.
Who, the traffic warden?
Yeah. Usually there's a nice lady who comes by or a nice guy who comes by and just goes, like, he didn't even say it. Did you hear what he said? He just went, they're cleaning. All right.
What else does he have to say?
Hey, hey, how you doing?
Sam, this like the movie. It is a matter of principle. He shouldn't have to
Uh-huh.
be an asshole. He's simply telling you to do what you're supposed to do. It's
I'm
about
doing it. We can
it's
do that in
about
a civil way with each other, or we can do it in a gruff, mean, fucking dick way. Either way is possible, yes.
I'm sorry.
I said, hey, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so you would rat on your friends. Let's get into this. This is intrigued.
Well, first of all, they're not my friends.
No, okay, that's fine.
It just seems to me the choice that he has is option one. You tell the truth about bad acts done by a bunch of assholes who are going to land on their feet in any case. You put up with a semester of being ostracized or bullied, and then you go to Harvard. That's choice one. Choice two is you cover it up and your entire future goes off the rails and those kids get away with it.
Because
I don't see the benefit. I don't see like the moral benefit of not telling the truth in this case. Like we can clearly come up with a mobster like or a different movie where like never rat on your friends and always keep your mouth shut, right?
right.
Yeah, of course. In the 50s, in the McCarthy era, how you would get up in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee and not name names, right? That would be me. Of course, I would not name names in that case. But here I'm trying to figure out like why Pacino is so intent on
Because I think, like you say, the crime is not, like you say, the crime is not so big. It's that the guy got a car for greasing the fucking. He's a douchebag who got this car and flashes it around, and everyone knows he like sucked up, kissed their ass, sucked up. That's kind of made explicit. So the crime that they commit is very sort of it's roguish, right, on their part, but it doesn't deserve, feels like, them getting expelled for it or whatever.
I think it does.
You do?
Yeah.
And so you think, and you think that they,
well, at least deserves suspension of some kind. I mean, however much the headmaster deserves it, it is an act of vandalism and of hooliganism, and you can't let it go unpunished in some way. I mean, the younger kids are going to be looking to this, and you got to establish.
You would rat on these people, is what you're saying.
No, first of all,
Yeah,
the verb
that's what you're saying. Yeah, that's what you're saying. I just want us to be clear about what you're saying.
The verb to rat is
yeah,
obviously.
You would grass on them, snitch on them, however you like to
let me
say
think.
it.
Actually, I don't know if I would. Let me try and think back to.
We've all been in a situation where someone that we know, even if it's a douchebag in the class, we've all been in a situation where that they've done something. And even if it like gets, I always tell Wilder this, even if it gets the whole class in trouble, you never go and say, "Oh, actually, it was Everett," or actually,
of course, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, in those situations, the teacher come in and somebody's put a thumbtack on the teacher's chair. Who did this? I'm, of course, not going to be the kid who sits there and says, "Billy did it," and point.
Exactly.
Right? No,
well, that's all this is. That's all this is. How is this different?
I don't know.
And beyond that, the fucking guy in charge, the headmaster, gives him a bribe. Puts a place at Harvard on the table and says, if you tell me,
all the more reason
exactly.
to adhere to the truth.
Bend over and take it. That's what you're advocating. It's very interesting. Very revealing. I didn't expect this at all. I'm glad we picked this movie now. Now I know. I'll make sure not to tell you all the terrible things.
The choice. Okay, look, if the teacher comes into the room and the thumbtack is on the chair and says, "Who did this?" or you're all doing detention or whatever. But this is like the Chris O'Donnell character comes from a difficult circumstance. Like, this is his road to a life that he wants for himself. And if he doesn't snitch, he's going to be expelled, right? Absent Pacino's overlong shouting.
You are executing this voice. So
God, slamming his cane down on the table. Just
he would take a flamethrower to the place if he was a few years younger.
Right. And I noticed that they do ease us into the idea of lying and not telling the truth a few times into the movie.
Yeah.
About like their relationship, or that the son is, the Al Pacino is the dad in one case or whatever, in order to get the Ferrari to test drive. So they're playing fast and loose with the truth throughout the movie.
My neighbor just went by and laughed because I think he knows that what I'm doing is this. He's like, "Are you doing a podcast?" I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, he said that?
Yeah, he knows. I've sent it to him.
Oh, that's so funny. Does he enjoy it?
That I don't know. He's never told me as much, so probably doesn't listen. Yeah.
So they ease us into the idea of lying for one's own benefit earlier in the film.
Yeah.
They bribe people themselves. Pacino bribes the test drive guy. No problem there. In order for a blind man to break the law and test drive a $190,000 car. No problem there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And the question is, it's about drawing the ethics. It's about ethics, drawing the line of what is ethical. To give the Ferrari test drive guy, who is, by the way, fantastic.
Yeah, he's very good.
Is dynamite. You give me... Oh, it's up the back. Fucking awesome, that guy. What do they call him? The gray
ghost.
The gray ghost. Fucking hell, he's brilliant. That's how you do something in one scene. He's so memorable. Nobody can shift these things like me.
Look, I just want to say, obviously, I'm taking a little bit of a devil's advocate position.
He's backing away now, so to speak. Devil's advocate.
No.
Very, very good Al Pacino reference.
No.
You know.
Okay, we can get off this. I somehow feel that anyone who listens to this is going to think less of me, but that's fine. Two other interesting or funny parallels with the Holdovers. One is that in that movie, the headmaster is also an asshole who's also at the mercy of the donor legacy parents, and also has been given a fancy gift at the start of the movie by the board of trustees.
Louis XIII.
Yeah, in this case, a bottle of brandy, right?
Yeah.
But also the other thing is, in the Holdovers, the Paul Giamatti character, also we find out he had his life derailed by these same people, the entitled assholes. He had been at Harvard.
Well, and
his roommate at the time cheated using his work, but then accused him of having cheated, Giamatti, of having cheated. And Giamatti ends up hitting him with a car, I guess out of frustration or desperation, and then ends up getting kicked out of Harvard.
Right.
And then he has nowhere to go, and so he ends up teaching back at this same school where he had been a student, and now where he's the teacher still.
It is weird though how many similarities there are between the two movies. And I saw the Holdovers before I saw this, and I was like, oh my God, this is just that movie over again.
Right.
You could even say he has a eye problem as well, Giamatti. He has only one eye that works.
That's true.
Even down to that. Yeah. It's really alarming, like how they've just clearly ripped it off.
Well, actually, in the Holdovers too, there is that sort of moment of truth, of do you rat on him or you not? But it's the Giamatti character who has to decide. And Giamatti also decides to sacrifice himself.
Exactly.
Which I think is in that case, like, obviously the moral and proper thing to do is for Giamatti to fall on his sword and save the kid from being expelled.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. See, now this is annoying. See, everyone's now taken all the spots.
Are there no spots left?
I think that's it. I think I'm out of spots. This is annoying. This is why you never move.
Well, you know what, son, though? You did the right thing. You chose principle.
And look where it got me.
Yeah.
This is your point?
This is my point. Sometimes it doesn't pay to do the right thing. Always do the right thing.
Always do the right thing. What if I go to the next block? This is annoying. Oh, no, there you go. This guy's leaving. I'm going there. I'm going where he goes. Fuck these guys. All right, we're moving again, guys.
I will say there are a few scenes that I found moving, and the scene after the test drive. So, okay, first of all, the idea that they get pulled over by a cop, and then there's a whole scene brilliant. Where the cop comes, gets the license and registration, has a conversation with Al Pacino, and never realizes that he's blind.
He's good. He's good at being blind.
Absurd.
Well, of course it's absurd.
Oh, I will say though, just one last thing. Another scene is at the end when they're finally saying goodbye, and Pacino's in the limo and he's going to go, and he's saying goodbye to Chris O'Donnell, and only pays him the $300, by the way, which is a nice touch. After spending money left, right, and center, throwing it at anyone, he still only gives him exactly what they agreed to. But then there's this kind of moment, which again we've seen 10 billion times, of like two characters saying goodbye and then wait, come back for a second or whatever. Mm-hmm. And Chris O'Donnell turns around, and Pacino just reaches up and touches his face. And gets the sense of what his face is like. That's really beautiful. That to me is like the deepest scene in the movie in some way.
I'm willing to watch Al Pacino do pretty much anything.
Yeah, I have actors that I feel that way about. Gene Hackman, Jeff Bridges, there are others. Daniel Day-Lewis, maybe.
Sure. I would agree with all of those.
I think that my resistance to Pacino is irrational, and it probably comes from my an obstinate contrariness that I've described before, like about Sinatra.
Mm-hmm.
And I also say I'm an ignoramus who was exposed to Pacino not through Dog Day Afternoon and The Godfather, but through the shitty 90s movies, the shouting Pacino.
But even in the 90s, even in the shitty 90s, he did great work. I'll tell you a story about Al. Did I tell this story already?
Why don't you tell it and we'll find out.
All right. The editor, Susie Elmiger, who was the editor on Joe Gould's Secret, the movie where you and I became friends, she was editing this movie called People I Know, where Al Pacino was playing an aging agent or publicist, one of these New York kind of legends. I think it was modeled after a couple of different people. And Susie invited me and Alex to a preview screening of it. Mm-hmm. We went to see this screening, and Alex and I both walked away feeling like that was the best performance that we'd seen from Al Pacino in 20 years. It was it was absolutely knock your socks off, incredible, subtle, deep, just detail, amazing range. And I remember I had a 2-hour conversation a few days later, because they were doing this screening for, to get kind of feedback and notes. And I had a 2-hour conversation with Susie afterwards. And this is a woman who's worked on Robert Altman movies. This is not a novice editor. This is an old pro. Right. She worked on Shortcuts. She's worked with incredible actors. She's cut incredible performances. And she said, I've never been given dailies like this. Because she said he would do about 5-6 takes, and each one would give you a totally different, if you took take ones through the movie, you'd get a very different read on the character. And if you took take twos, it would be a whole different thing. And it ranges from very quiet and internal to very big and shouty. And he does everything in between. And what she had done is she'd cut it to be just interesting and subtle and whatever. And she said what had happened is that Miramax had come in, and Harvey had bought the movie, and this director was a young director, and all of a sudden the performance was getting hijacked. They kept moving the performance away from the subtle version to taking the larger takes, to using him basically as a way to generate energy through his performance, rather than allowing the sort of interior, good performance, really more interesting performance to shine through. And she said, in a way, it's almost I would almost wish he didn't give those other range because people just get tempted to use it. But if you're a good editor, and in the end, the movie did terribly. No one ever heard of it because they just wrecked it. It was a classic kind of wrecking move by Miramax. But just to have seen that also made me, and to hear Susie talk about it, made me feel like that's a guy who fucking knows what he's doing. Yeah, I just think he's one of the all-time greats, and he definitely, he's willing, like some of the, like Daniel Day-Lewis, actually, he's willing to go up to that edge of too much. I drink your milkshake is definitely a bold choice. The way he tackles that sequence is pretty fucking let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the street sweeper. Should we move now? Is anyone moving? Now we're not moving, see?
Is he going down the middle?
He's going down the middle. The woman in front of me actually literally just got out of her car just now as the street sweeper came through. There he goes. Ooh, a lot of dust. Yeah.
Maybe this is a good moment for us to segue into movies from 1993.
So this will be season 3's opener.
Yeah, this will be next season's opener. So this is sort of a cliffhanger. We'll have to end on a cliffhanger somehow.
Maybe we shouldn't pick.
Lots of really great big movies from 93 that I have seen, including Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, The Fugitive, Groundhog Day.
Jurassic Park and Schindler's List were made in the same year?
Believe that?
That's pretty fun.
Supposedly, he was on the set of one of them watching dailies from the other, Spielberg. I mean, that is incredible. The Firm, which I only saw a couple of years ago for the first time. Yeah, great score, by the way, speaking of score.
Great score. Dave Grusin.
Yeah. A movie I really like, In the Line of Fire. Clint Eastwood, John Malkovich.
I think I only saw it maybe once in the theater, but I really liked it.
That's a really fun, like, 90s thriller.
Agreed.
Malkovich as the assassin.
I like it.
Really good. Yeah. And great premise that Clint Eastwood plays one of, like, the Secret Service body men who was with JFK at the assassination and hesitated.
That's
and
good.
Should have thrown himself in front of the bullet, could have maybe, but didn't.
Classic one.
And now as this sort of washed up, slightly boozy, slightly misogynistic, and
it's funny how all
too.
the Hollywood movies are basically moral movies, right? This goes back to my point about America. America has...
And Crimes and Misdemeanors, among other things.
But it's like this thing of the moral conundrum seems to be at the very heart of American movie making. Like big Hollywood kind of, the big machine. I hadn't really thought about that until we started doing this, but so many of the big movies are about that. Maybe that's what makes something like Silence of the Lambs more interesting, because it's not about that. But like Fatal Attraction, even Do the Right Thing, Scent of Woman, they're all these moral movies. Interesting. Okay, sorry. Side note. Keep going.
Well, have I chosen the immoral side? Is that what you're saying in my...
I don't know.
I wouldn't frame it as him snitching or being a rat. I don't think that's fair.
It's over. I don't
think that's fair.
We're talking about 1993. That conversation is over.
It's an adherence to the truth.
No, you can't. Listen, you made your bed. Just live with it. Let's carry on. 1993.
God. I think I'm deleting this whole episode. We're going to start over.
You said it. You said it. Everybody heard it. You said it.
Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
1993. Jonathan Demme. Shortcuts.
Oh, fucking great movie. The Jack Lemmon monologue in Shortcuts. One of the great monologues in cinema.
I haven't seen it since it came out. I remember really being excited about that movie.
That's so good.
Fearless, a movie I really love. Jeff Bridges, Peter Weir.
I think I only saw that for the first time recently. I think I missed it when it came out.
Very good. Jeff Bridges as the survivor of a plane. And Rosie Perez, your friend, is in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Here are some movies from 1993 I have not seen. Carlito's Way.
Ah, Brigante! I was going to say, Carlito Brigante to the max. That's one of the great fucking performances from this man. Maybe we'll have to do a double bill. Sean Penn is one of Sean Penn's best performances. You've never fucking seen Carlito's Way? That's ridiculous. De Palma is a bit of a hack, but that is, oh my God, that is a fun fucking movie. Go snatch a purse. Okay, that's right away. Fucking guns blazing. I want to pick that one.
Cliffhanger.
That's a rubbish movie. Stallone on a mountain. Yeah, rubbish.
Supposedly a great opening sequence.
Yeah, and then that's it. That's all it is.
How about Falling Down? Remember that movie with Michael Douglas?
That was like, I saw that movie with my friend Dag in the cinema when we were in school, and I was really, really into that movie. Very moral, again, super duper, like moral conundrum kind of movie.
I bet that's very of its time.
Yeah, I think it won't have aged well. Joel Schumacher, right?
Right. Summersby.
My aunt's favorite. Summersby. Richard Gere. You are not Jack. You are not Jack. What does it say? You are not Jack Summersby. How do you know? Because I never loved him the way I love you.
Oh, boy.
It's really pants, that movie. This will not be the one we choose.
Yeah. A somewhat obscure movie by Steven Soderbergh, King of the Hill.
Oh. I don't think I've seen it either.
Okay.
This was in his like post Sex, Lies and Video. He made like Kafka and this and not Metropolis, what was it called?
Schizopolis,
very good. Schizopolis. And then it's only with Out of Sight that he has a career.
Right. I remember seeing Out of Sight at the Greenwich, what was that cinema called, at the corner of West 4th and Greenwich Avenue in 12th Street and Greenwich Avenue, where the Equinox Gym is right now. The Pelican Brief.
Yeah, I'm surprised you've never seen that.
That's right up my alley.
That's got Lavino written all over.
Juicy legal thrill. Is that Denzel too?
Denzel, Julia Roberts.
I might have to add that to my list.
Is it Coppola who made that?
Pakula.
Oh, Pakula. Yeah, you'd love it.
Yeah, I might have to add that to my list of side movies to see.
Definitely.
Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Oh yeah. I like that movie. Ben Kingsley, right? And the little boy.
Aren't I nailing this?
He's quite good in that movie. It's got all the tropes of the slightly naff chess genius prodigy movie. It's not very surprising. It's perfectly satisfying for what it is. Does what it says on the tin.
How about Farewell, My Concubine?
Oh, I like that movie a lot. Chen Kaige. That's a very good movie. And I haven't seen that in a long, long time. Let's see how we're getting away from Carlito,
though. Okay, just a couple more. Mrs. Doubtfire.
You've never seen Mrs. Doubtfire.
Too scary.
How is that possible? Wilder has seen Mrs. Doubtfire. I saw it recently because we showed it to Wilder. He did find it a bit too scary. Not scary, but he got upset that things weren't going well.
Yeah, it's true actually that is a very light movie as I imagine it, but like mistaken identity movies and stuff, I do get very uncomfortable sometimes in those movies.
There's an amazing sequence in that movie, which you've probably seen bits of it, where he ends up like Tootsie, where he ends up playing the both characters at the same time, and he's in the same restaurant as Mrs. Doubtfire and as himself. And he has to keep running to the bathroom, changing and running out, changing, running. And then at one point, he comes out and sits at the table as the wrong person, And yeah, you would find that very tense. Wilder was upset that don't mess it up.
Oh. Wilder and I are kindred spirits.
You are, especially in movie going, definitely.
Dazed and Confused.
Oh, that's a great movie. Linklater.
it really would seem to be between Mrs. Doubtfire, Carlito's Way. I mean, it's probably Carlito's Way, isn't it?
It's definitely Carlito. Carlito Brigante to the max.
It's a Pacino double feature. Wow. So we did a Glenn Close double feature, and now we're doing Pacino. Isn't this movie violent? Isn't there going to be some...
This movie has, you'll see, it has all the... There's too much. There's too much. But it has sequences that are very well done. It's got to be Carlito.
All right. Well, there we have it. I mean, I just want to say again, like,
Guys,
loyalty.
You really
Loyalty.
Hey, we're going to get some letters on this one.
All right, mate. See you around, I guess.
All right. I'll see you in season 3.
Delish. So long.
Cheers.
And with that, we close out the second season of the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with season 3, which will cover 1993 to 2002, starting with Brian De Palma's crime drama, Carlito's Way. If you subscribe to the podcast, you'll be sure to be notified when those episodes are published. If you're feeling generous, please give us a nice rating and/or review on your podcast app. Bye for now.